This is Joe and Anthony Russo, better known as the Russo Brothers. Back in 2019, they were on top of the world. They had just directed Avengers Endgame, the fifth highest grossing movie of all time, capping off Marvel's 22 film Infinity Saga with a historic box office run. Fast forward to 2025, and they've just released one of the biggest flops in recent memory, The Electric State. So are the Russos cooked, as the kids say? Or is there a perfect sports analogy that sums up exactly where they stand as they prepare to return to Marvel for the next two Avengers films? In order to better understand where the Russos are going, we need to start at the beginning of their journey. Marvel took a big gamble when they hired the Russos to direct Captain America the Winter Soldier in 2012. Up to that point, the brothers had mostly been known for their work in comedy, particularly on the beloved sitcom Community. But when The Winter Soldier hit theaters, it became one of the MCU's most critically acclaimed films, elevating Captain America into a modernized, action-packed spy thriller. As a reward for their success, Marvel entrusted them with Captain America Civil War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, four of the most successful and most beloved films in the MCU. Like many creatives, after the success of Endgame, the Russos parlayed their commercial success into passion projects. The first of these projects was 2021's Cherry, starring Tom Holland as an Iraq War veteran struggling with PTSD and addiction. This film had personal significance to the Russos as it was set in their home state of Ohio. Financially, it's hard to gauge exactly how the film did since it was released on Apple TV+, but critically, it was panned for being too long, self-indulgent, and formulaic. Fans, however, did appreciate Tom Holland's performance. Next, we jump to 2022's The Gray Man. This marked the return for the Russos to the big box office budget. With $200 million, this action thriller starring Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans saw some lukewarm response from the critics, but the audience, however, loved it, making it a streaming hit for Netflix. Now we're on to 2025 with The Electric State. With a massive $300 million budget and a star-studded cast, expectations were sky high. But the film underdelivered. While not terrible, it lacked any standout qualities, making it one of the most expensive disappointments in recent memory. In order to accurately gauge why this is such a big deal, we need to use my handy-dandy homemade hype meter. Taking a look, you'll see a scale from 1 to 10. Many different factors can contribute to what gets a film more or less hype. Some things that build up a film's hype would include, but are not limited to, the actors involved, the directors involved, the studio, the genre of the film, the marketing budget, word of mouth. Is it based on a beloved franchise? For a film to move up the hype meter, it can be any combination of any of these things, or just a really hard push in any one of these categories, like a huge marketing budget. So if you look at the scale, if it has a low amount of hype but it's a good movie, it's what we would call a sleeper. Anybody that views a sleeper usually loves it, and they often all ask the same question: why aren't more people talking about this movie? Next, on the low hype meter, if it's a bad movie, it's what we'd call a to-be original. Nobody even knows it exists, so nobody's really upset about it. Then we move on to the medium hype. If it's a good movie and it's got some medium hype to it, it's what we call a fan favorite. A good example of this would be The Gray Man. Pretty solid budget. The audience is really invested in it. Lots of views, lots of word of mouth after it comes out. It's a fan favorite. Next, though, if we're at medium hype and it's a bad movie, it's what we like to call the TNT staple. It flops in theaters, but it's likely going to find some life on cable TV, playing every weekend for a few months, and your dad's probably going to call you and tell you should check out this movie that he's been watching. Then we move to the high hype good movie. This is the immortal blockbuster. Infinity War, Endgame, Avatar, Barbie. Hugely marketed, hugely hyped movies. But people come out in droves to see it, and it's good. On the other side of the coin, though, we have the high-hyped bad movie, the legendary flop, the one that the director and the actors will never seem to live down. No matter how many press junkets they do, no matter how many fan meetups they do, somebody's always going to bring up this bad movie, and if they knew it was bad when they were making it. And sadly, it appears that this is going to be the spot that The Electric State sits in. You can go back through each of the Russos' recent films, and you can see where they sit on the hype meter. Winter Soldier had a medium amount of hype, and it over-delivered, becoming a fan favorite. The rest of their MCU movies, high hype, high success, high amount of money brought in, blockbusters. Cherry, medium amount of hype. While we knew the budget was lower, there was still some expectation with the Russos and Tom Holland working together again. It wasn't a major success, and it wasn't that good, so it lands us in the TNT staple category. Then we move to The Gray Man. Medium hype, good results, making it a fan favorite. We hop into 2024. We're at Comic-Con. The Russos are just announced to be coming back to Marvel to make the next two Avengers films. Robert Downey Jr. pulls the mask off. He's going to be Dr. Doom. The hype is through the roof. That hype bleeds itself onto the Electric State, mixed with its massive budget, its cast, its directors, and the love of the graphic novel. The hype for this movie is through the roof. And when it didn't deliver, it left everyone a little bit jarred. And it wasn't necessarily the worst movie ever made. The acting wasn't Madame Web bad. The CGI wasn't Marvel's bad. But it wasn't really good at anything either. And it really disappointed the people that did watch it, putting it in that legendary flop category. The Russo situation really reminds me a lot of what happens in the NFL after a team wins a Super Bowl. The head coach, they're untouchable, but the offensive or defensive coordinators, those guys usually get poached. Other teams looking to give them a bigger role, more say in what their team is going to do. Some of these guys thrive. Others, they really struggle. And after a few bad seasons, that once hot head coaching candidate may end up looking for a coordinator job again. That doesn't mean that they're a bad coach. It just means that they work better in a system where they're not running the whole show. And maybe that's what the Russos are. Maybe them returning to Marvel could be their chance for that coordinator to come home and show that they can put together a dominant offense again. With Avengers Doomsday and Secret War on the horizon, fans are understandably nervous that this latest flop from the Russos is a sign of the final nail probably being put in the coffin of the MCU. But for me, I think this return to Marvel, this return to the Kevin Feige system, could really be the magic that the Russos need to show everybody that they're not just one-hit wonders, that they can still cook, that they are still the chefs in the kitchen. So here's to hoping that the next two Avengers films are a lot more Infinity War and a lot less Electric State. What are your thoughts on the Russos going forward? Are you nervous? Are you calm, cool, and collected? Are you a little uneasy? Do you think this is going to be the end of the MCU? And if you haven't already, hit that like and go ahead and keep up to date with the Minivan Movie Club, subscribe, and hit that follow button.